Bizarre stories from subscribers. Ha 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 ha. Hi one, I'm Leo Augusto. When I was 10 years old, I was at school. It was recess time and we played a lot of things, but we got tired of the same games, right? So I had the idea, right, to create another form of entertainment for us, which was called Dig Dig. After counting 1, 2, 3 and go, we would run to the little field and start digging the school's ground. And then whoever found the coolest thing would win the game. So 10 friends started digging with their own hands. I had long nails. That gave me an advantage over the rest of the crowd, you know. When I was digging, I felt something hard, man. I started carefully removing more dirt around the thing, right? So I could pull it out. And when I looked closely, dude, it was a bone. It was bigger than my arm. I got so scared, man, that I ended up not showing it to anyone. I put the bone under my shirt and ran to the room. I kept it in my backpack, right, dude? I closed it properly and stayed there for a while. I still kept that bone in the backpack, and I confess that I felt a lot of chills, Leo. It seemed like there was a dark aura around that thing. Everyone came back and continued the class. My friends thought I had a stomach ache, and that's why I ran away from the game. But I ignored it and sat there sweating cold until the class was over. When I got home, I started searching the internet about human bones to try to identify if it really was from a person. Sometimes it could be from a horse, some animal, right? And I was sure of that, Leo Augusto. It looked a lot like the guy with the femur. At the time, I was frozen for 30 seconds. My grandmother saw my despair and asked me what it was. I put it on the table for her to see the piece. At the time, she had a microscope, so she saw it closer, and it really was human bone. Man, she asked me where I had gotten that. I told her what the origin was, and so my family found out. I told the school officials, who passed it on to the police, and they discovered an illegal cemetery there, man. That area was cordoned off for the experts to analyze the entire place. At school, there was no other topic but this one.
Wow, what's this? Did they close the little field? Could it be that a dog didn't bury all this there, my friends?
Stop being an idiot, man. Do you think a dog would bury this whole amount of bone? This is the work of evil forces! Ah, damn it, now I
won't be able to play my little soccer game. I keep wondering, if I dug more in that place, could I find more human bones? Thanks for reading my creepy story, Leo Augusto. Hi Leo Augusto, I'm Julia, an 11-year-old big fan of yours. Every vacation I travel to my grandmother's house. It was bedtime that day. I was on the couch watching television, but everyone was sleeping. So I did too. It was about 11 post-meridian. I fell asleep quickly, around 2:56 in the morning. I woke up to my cousin Gustavo screaming for my grandmother. I passed by the adults' room, who were all sleeping heavily. I went down the hallway, turning on every light, and arrived at my cousin's room, which was near the kitchen. When I opened the door, I saw my cousin peeing himself with fear. With a really scared face, when he saw me, he started running. He nearly knocked me down as he dashed to the bathroom and locked the door. After I talked to him, realizing it was me, he felt relieved and opened the door. He explained he thought something was coming to get him. He said that a few minutes ago he had gone to pee, and when he was about to enter the bathroom, he heard footsteps. He thought it was his imagination, but he heard more footsteps approaching, coming from the kitchen. At that moment, he mustered the courage and called for his grandmother. We had gone to the kitchen for me to better grasp the story. When I sat down on the chair, it was warm, as if something or someone had just left from there. I told him. He put his hand on the chair and it was indeed warm. And it wasn't anyone from the house, because I made sure and checked the rooms, right? Everyone was sleeping. I came to the conclusion that the creature or the haunted soul that was there was walking around the kitchen and at one point sat in the chair, right? A little before we arrived to check, we stayed a bit in the kitchen thinking about the subject. I asked if he was praying before going to sleep. He said no, and if he forgot, he let it go when he remembered. I told him to pray. I took a rosary that was in my grandmother's drawer and told him to put it around his neck. Then I said goodbye and went to sleep. It was hard to go through the hallway again and turn off the lights, everything getting dark. I locked the bedroom door, man, and went to lie down, thoughtful about what had happened. When I was about to fall asleep, I heard footsteps in the hallway. At that moment, I covered myself and prayed for divine protection. I don't know what that was, but in the following days, we heard all of this again. I spoke with my grandmother, but she said that she didn't know what that was. In the year of 1982, there was a puppeteer very well known by the public and loved by his fans. For those who don't know, this artist has the ability to bring puppets to life, manipulating them with some strings. What caught attention about this puppeteer was that the characters presented by him seemed truly alive, from the size of the puppet to even their appearance. It was no wonder that even adults thought it was a real human there. Until at the school performance, Guinho noticed something strange. He was watching this puppeteer from the front row of the show, right? He was watching the puppet's eyes when suddenly he saw a tear falling. That left him puzzled. It wasn't part of the show, as it was a cheerful play. So he continued watching, and during a pause in the dialogue, he heard the puppet say, "Help!" My God, Guinho was sure that something was wrong there. He asked his friends next to him if they heard that too, but no one noticed anything. Puppeteers dubbed the puppet, but that voice wasn't from the manipulator man. He was sure of that. So when the show ended, everyone left the room. Guinho hid behind the curtains, and he kept watching the puppeteer who was packing up his things. At one point, he left to go to the bathroom, and that's when the boy went to investigate. He opened the puppet's box, and when he saw, the puppet opened its eyes and asked for help again. He couldn't move. He said he was a normal child, but that the puppeteer took him and turned him into that doll. When Guinho was taking him out of the box to take him away, the guy arrived. That was the last time he was seen in public. Hello Leo, my name is Raphael, and I will tell a story that happened when I was 10 years old and my brother 12. We slept in a bunk bed in our room, he on the top bed and I on the bottom after our father passed away in 1996. We started having a lot of nightmares. It was certain that every night we would have bad dreams. I would always wake up around 3 o'clock, sweating a lot and panting. However, one night I woke up in the middle of the night with someone stroking my head. I thought it was my brother messing with me, but when I looked at him, he was sleeping, man. So I went to take a sip of water and went back to sleep. After a while, the stroking came back, man. I got up from the bed quickly, man, and fought with him. I thought he was pretending, but he was really sleeping. He was snoring peacefully, so I went back to bed again. And the stroking came for the third time, Leo. I've never prayed in my life. I stayed there praying until the sun came up, man. I didn't sleep a wink. When my brother woke up, man, I told him what had happened. He said he slept peacefully, dude, because he had dreamed of our father. He was stroking us to sleep. He was protecting us from the nightmare after that. Man, we never had nightmares again. I hope you liked my story, Leo. Hello Leo, my name is Nanda Gacha, and this story happened on a Friday at the last school hour. It was Portuguese class. I asked the teacher if I could go to the bathroom, right? And she let me. I arrived, entered the half-open bathroom door, went into a stall, locked the door, and urinated. I unlocked it and went out to wash my hands. When I turned on the faucet and looked at the mirror, I saw a brown-haired girl behind me. She was wearing a pastel-colored sweater. I had never seen this girl at school. I thought she was a new student. But how bizarre for her to appear out of nowhere, like a ghost behind me. Weird. She told me to always keep the bathroom door closed, that someone could come in there. And I said okay, so she left and slammed the door very hard. All I could think of was how strange this girl was. When I finished washing my hands, I tried to leave, but I couldn't. The door seemed to be locked. Strange that the key was on the inside. I tried to unlock it by turning the key from one side to the other, and nothing. I started to yell some names of the girls from the office and cried a lot. I was desperate. I was there for about 5 minutes, but it felt like I was in confinement for an hour. I was heavy, kicking, doing everything, and nothing would open. Until when there was no more hope, I was already imagining spending the night there. The door opened. It was a school employee, and she managed to open it with a master key from the outside. I thanked her and described the girl who had locked me in that place. She went to check the security camera to find out exactly who did that, but when she checked, the images showed no one, just the door closing by itself. She said it could have been the wind, but that didn't convince me. To this day, I don't go to that bathroom and I've never seen that girl again. People didn't believe me, but I'm sure that was a ghost. Hello Leo Augusto, my name is Igor, and I want to tell you a bizarre story that happened to me in the month of my birthday. The year was 2020. I remember I was playing with my two friends, ringing other people's doorbells and running away. I kept playing and it started to get dark. Everyone went back to their homes. And when I get to mine, I received the sad news from my parents that we were going to move in a week. I was kind of sad, but I continued my life, right? After a week, I say goodbye to my friends and moved to another city. When I got there, I asked my dad, to go take a look around the street and try to make new friends since our neighborhood wasn't very busy. And he let me. As soon as I left, I walked a few blocks and noticed there was an abandoned house in the middle of a dirt road in the cane field. Me, being a curious boy, decided to go take a look, and I got really scared, man. Since it was stinking and falling apart, that place smelled rotten, man. Not to mention the cracked windows and the ceiling kind of falling, breaking. When I'm leaving, I hear a door opening noise inside the shack. When I look back, I see an old woman with missing hair, dark eyes, purple skin, and a bit torn. She started walking towards me, limping, with her hands stretched out, wanting to catch me. I scream and run out at full speed, man, but I tripped. When I look back again, I realized that where the house was, there were several human skulls and dog ones too. Even though I thought it was all in my head, I ran out screaming. A group of young people calmed me down and asked what happened. I explained what had just happened and they laughed in my face. They said I possibly saw a ghost. They said that the family used to live there with their dog there, and that one day, mysteriously, the house started to catch fire. While the family was sleeping, they said the dog went into the house to call them, but it was burned too. They said this happened a long time ago and they left laughing at me. I ran to my house and didn't tell anything to my parents. Today I live normally with my new friends that I made recently, and I hope you like this story, Leo, whatever that was. I don't think it was my imagination. Hello Leo Augusto, my name is Matthias and I'm 12 years old, and this happened a month ago. At school, I have a geography teacher named Luan. He was very funny and playful. But one thing I always wondered was why all his classes were ignored by the class man. Almost 100% of the students ignored the guy. They just talked and played during class. Except me and my friend, who always paid attention to his explanations. This was repeated every day, man. It was embarrassing. He would come in, put his material on the table and start teaching the lesson, but no one was paying attention. My friend and I were, as always, studying and observing what was going on. There was one day that it was very noisy, man, and we couldn't hear properly what the teacher, Luan, was explaining. We got annoyed and went to ask the class why didn't anyone pay attention to his lesson. Then they started looking at us with a strange face, and a girl got up from her chair and said the following: that there was no teacher Luan at that school. My friend and I were looking at each other. So we decided to go to the office to talk about this teacher, who, by the way, was no longer there. He must have gone to the bathroom, right? We got there out of breath and already talking about what happened in class, right? The principal asks, how do we know about him? We said that he teaches us geography. The teacher turned pale and said, "It's not possible because he died 13 years ago." After that day, we stopped seeing that teacher, man. I can't believe it. We were having class with a ghost, is that right? The last time we saw anything about him was in geography class, written on a paper left on the table. Now you know the truth. Nobody believes me, my friend. Hello, Leo Augusto, alright? My name is Patricio, and I'm going to tell you a story that happened to me when I was about 2-3 years old. I was going to a big store. You know, those school supply stores. So since I was small, I stayed in my mother's arms, right? And we walked in one of those sections. There was a door that was made with some black plastic strips. We got to a certain distance from that little door when suddenly I saw a woman in white, and her hair was long and black. They covered her face. A woman was screaming horribly. But the people around didn't hear or see the woman, and it was as if I was the only one watching and hearing that. The woman walked down one of the corridors screaming terrifyingly. The woman walked past us, knocking things over. My mother even thought it was me who had knocked everything over, and I got scolded. "Hey boy, you're grabbing things there, knocking everything over, aren't you?" "Not me, huh?" "Stop it, boy," until I didn't see her anymore. I wanted to warn her, but as I was very young, I couldn't speak properly, right, dude? I couldn't explain what was happening there. The years went by, and I was talking with my church friends about supernatural reports, and one of the girls said that this creature I saw was similar to Samara. Other people said that I had seen some demon or something like that. I'm currently 14 years old, and I've never been to that place again, man. Maybe I saw that creature there, since children usually have this power to see the supernatural. Hello, Leo. My name is Pedro, and I'm going to tell you a story that happened to my uncle at my grandmother's house. He always liked to fish, and he went there every day, right, to get lunch and dinner. There was a day when he went fishing at Posh's Lake, and it was almost night. He wasn't able to catch anything, man. The fish would bite and he would lose them. Around 19 o'clock at night, he finally managed to catch a fish for dinner. As he was packing up, he said, "Finally a fish for our dinner, thank God." After packing up, he went up to his mother's house. Then, on his way, he saw a woman in a black dress, pale with white hair, and she said the following:
"Where are you going, boy?"
"I'm going to my house."
"Where is your house?"
My uncle pointed to the house, right? The woman looked and smiled at him. My uncle went to my grandmother's house, and when he arrived, he saw the same woman standing at the fence that separated the house from the neighbors. Despite his fear, he entered and entrusted the fish to my grandmother's care. She prepared it, they had dinner, and went to sleep. Suddenly, my uncle wakes up in the middle of the night with noise in the kitchen. He went to see what was happening, right? And guess what? He saw the same woman who was at the fence. She looked at him and started coming in his direction. My uncle was paralyzed, as if that woman had frozen him or something like that. The environment was cold and heavy. The woman stopped in front of him and said,
"You will come with me, boy."
Suddenly my grandmother appears and everything goes back to normal. How does the old lady believe in these things? She blessed my uncle and put him to sleep. After that, he says he never saw that strange woman again, and he was always afraid to go fishing at night. Leo, my name is Jose. I live in Paraná in Itaipulandia. When I was younger, I used to sleep at my grandmother's house. There is a gigantic plantation as far as the eye can see, and also a shed where my relatives worked with cereals, but nowadays it is abandoned and empty. Actually, many cats live there. We don't know the reason why the cats started to use the space, but my grandmother ended up letting them stay sheltered there, right? Inside this shed, there was a very large and deep hole, and several of the animals ended up falling there, and they were meowing a lot. Observing this, my grandmother ended up solving this problem. She took out the cats that were trapped in this hole and covered it. But around 2019, me and my cousins were spending the weekend there. We ended up getting close to a mulberry tree. There were plenty of fruits. We ate some and went back. We woke up the next day and went there again. But to our surprise, there were very few fruits. We looked to the side and saw a trail of crushed mulberries. So we followed. We saw that they ended up in that hole, but we didn't care much about it. We thought they were feeding on these fruits, right? At dusk, we were getting ready to sleep, when suddenly we heard cries, screams and knocks coming from that place. We went to look out the window to see what was going on, and Leo Augusto had a very tall cat humanoid with bright green eyes, and it drooled a lot. He screamed and hit the tree trunk to get more fruit, but he seemed to be furious because there was almost nothing there, right? Around several kittens meowing to the center. It seemed like he was the king of cats, man. During the day, we told my older cousin and we went to check. He saw there, man, a lot of marks on the ground and on the trunk. But we ended up not finding anything. Observing that hole that seemed to be a well, I couldn't see the bottom of it. Could this creature be hiding down there? And at night it came out to eat things. And on the following nights, there were still cries and knocks all night long. Today they are going to destroy the shed. The humanoid cat Leo Augusto may appear. Pray for us. Hello, Leo Augusto. I'm Arthur. When I was at my grandmother's house in Goiás, I went for a walk with my cousins around the neighborhood. And there was a cemetery near a thicket. We entered the cemetery and walked a bit there until I found a doll. A baby doll, you know. It was all busted up. Didn't have an eye or a leg, with the dress all messed up. This doll was on top of a tomb, and when I looked, it was from a girl named Caroline. So I took the doll and messed with it, even with my cousins asking me not to do that. Until to finish the joke, I took it and threw it far away. It ended up going beyond the cemetery limits and fell into the thicket. I don't know what got into me to do that. Everyone was calling me crazy, and because I was messing up, right, dude? Shortly after about 2 minutes, I started to hear a child's voice, but no one else was hearing anything. That's when the atmosphere started to get sinister, Leo. We decided to run away because we were afraid something might happen. As I was running, I heard the voice of a girl in my head. She wanted to know where Mia was. I told my cousins, and they told me that the girl from the tomb was angry because I had thrown her doll away. Probably Mia would be this doll. So man, to avoid my death, I jumped over the cemetery wall to get to the bushes and get the doll, thus resolving this issue. But I couldn't find it, man. I searched several corners of the bushes and found nothing, man. Then a shadow looms over me. When I look, it's the ghost of the girl, man. The same one that was in the photo, and she was upset. Man, I thought I was going to die right then. But by divine grace, I see the doll and offer it to the spirit, trying to get rid of it. Right, man? No lie, Leo. After that, your thing knocked me out and took the doll. I woke up at my grandmother's house and my cousins told me that they had to get me out of there. The other day I was curious to go there and see, right, man? And when I passed by the girl's grave, the doll was still there. Hi Leo, my name is Michel Zinho Craft, and today I'm going to tell a story that bothered me for a long time. At home, my brother and I had an agreement not to eat each other's food. Whenever our parents filled the pantry with treats, we would separate what belonged to each of us to avoid a mad rush, right? Whoever eats the most until the stock runs out. Imagine I'm saving my cookie one per day, right? And then my brother comes, eats about 3. That's not fair, man. We made this agreement. So far, so good. But there was one day when I went to get my cookie to eat while watching my cartoon. But when I got there, there was nothing. I was very pissed off, man, because the day before, it was with the 5. I looked at his stock and it was also zeroed out. This damn guy must have eaten my part and his. What a jerk. So I went to his room and asked why he ate everything. But he said it wasn't him. I didn't believe it. I talked to our parents. We were both accusing each other. But our parents ended the discussion and bought more for us. This time, I needed to keep it inside my closet. I put my treats there and locked it. The key I tied to a string and hung it around my neck. That way I wouldn't be robbed by my traitor brother. So the next day I went to watch the cartoon and get my snack. But Leo, to my surprise, there was nothing left. Again. I spoke to my brother to return my things, but he had also been robbed. Whatever it was that took our stuff, bro, didn't need the keys to swipe. We spoke to our parents, but they thought we were scheming for them to buy more again. So, all that was left for us, dude, was to investigate. We put fake cookies and left a camera recording inside the room. We set up the computer's webcam and went to sleep. The next day, when we opened the cabinets, everything was there. We went to check the recordings to see if it had caught anything, and Leo, we saw a creature that looked like a small humanoid passing through the tiny cracks of the cabinet and going inside. After that day, we stopped eating those things, man, and whenever some food disappears, my brother and I already know it's him. Hi, I am Jeffrey, a 17-year-old. I want to share a story that happened around 2 years ago. When I lived with my mom and my stepdad, a very strange thing would happen. When night came, a black bus would always pass by my window. It was a bus I had never seen in my life. And every time I looked at the vehicle, there was a man in a red hood inside, with a creepy smile. As long as I was there looking, the bus wouldn't leave the stop, man. There was no one in the driver's area. And I kept wondering how that thing moved. So as soon as I hid behind the curtains, it would leave. I tried to tell this to my mom, but she didn't believe me. She said it was all in my head. The same thing happened the next day. I heard the noise of the bus stopping, so I went to look. There was the guy in the hoodie with a bizarre smile. And this time he waved at me. He got off the bus and came up to the front door. He stood there at the gate for a while and kept staring at me. I started to get really scared. I locked the window and the curtains. I told my mom again what was happening. She and my stepfather looked out there and saw nothing. She told me to go to sleep and stop watching horror videos as it could be affecting my mind. But when I went to sleep, I saw a shadow on my window. I couldn't see who it was because the curtain was in front, man. But I knew it was that guy in the hood. And what caught my attention the most was that I was on the second floor. How did he manage to climb up there, dude? So I waited a little while, and when the shadow started to move away, I slowly opened a gap in the curtain and took a picture. I got the proof I needed to show my mom and stepdad, so the next day I went to show them. But to my despair, the photo had been deleted. I couldn't believe what was happening, and it ended up being left at that. No one believed me, man. Now I see this hooded guy every time I go to school. No one around me sees him, only me. I don't know what to do anymore. Hello, Leo. My name is Julio Andre. Today I am going to tell a sinister story that happened to me. When I was just a few months old, a supernatural event happened that disturbed the whole family. My aunt has always been evangelical and prayed for me every day. It was the year 2008 and I was 2 to 3 months old. She told me that I wouldn't stop crying. It was day afternoon night, always crying a lot. My aunt thought it was colic. My mom tried to calm me down, but it was no use, man. The pediatrician said that this was normal and the baby would keep crying like this, but they found it very strange that I wouldn't stop. Almost 24 hours, man, total crying. So they decided to go to a medium to talk about my situation. They thought it was something strange. They talked to the medium, and he said he would analyze my case closely the next day. The next day he arrived in the afternoon and I was calm. But when he entered the room, he was shocked. he saw something strange with me. According to him, it was an evil spirit that came to torment me. He described to everyone that the spirit put its hand on my head and made me cry. He said that the spirit took pleasure in seeing me suffer. And he said it's common to see spirits like this making children cry. He had black clothes, red eyes, and long nails. And of course, his pointed and yellow teeth. I was screaming non-stop. My aunt said that I cried in my sleep as if I was having a nightmare. So my mother would rock me back and forth trying to wake me up, saying,
Wake up, son, wake up, Julio, Julio, wake up.
And on the other side, everyone in the family was praying for me, hoping that it would go away once and for all.
Go away, you evil one, leave in the name of Jesus.
And after a while it seems that the thing went away. We never heard about this evil force again because I stopped crying, right? I started to sleep peacefully. Everything was at peace. We went through moments of terror. Even today I'm afraid of this happening again, right? Hello Leo, my name is Camila and today I'm going to tell a sinister story that happened on my street. There was a woman of about 40 years old named Maria. She had lost her family due to a domestic accident. The gas cylinder exploded and she lost her 3 children and husband. After months in the hospital, she physically recovered and returned home. She tried to continue with life. The neighborhood helped with resources for her to get back on her feet. Whenever I saw her pass by, I noticed her sad expression. Maria would stop on the sidewalk and watch us playing in the street. I think she was reminded of her children. Months ago, a child from the neighborhood disappeared. According to the mother, she was playing in the street. When it was 5 o'clock, she didn't come home. The neighborhood came together to search. She could have fallen into a sewer or gotten lost in the woods. But in the end, they were unsuccessful in finding her. The authorities had no clue as to the child's whereabouts. Weeks later, another child disappeared. This raised an alarm for everyone. My parents forbade me from going out to play and the adults took to the streets again, knocking on door to form a search party. This way they could search for the missing over a larger distance, until they realized that Maria wasn't answering. She hadn't been seen by the neighbors for some time. They knew about the woman's history of trauma, and they thought she had taken her own life. Worried, they opened the gate and entered her house. When they got inside, they saw the missing children. They were at the dinner table tied to the chair, and Maria was serving. When asked what she was doing, she said she was serving dinner to her children because they had returned home. It was clear that she was insane, so they committed Maria, and the children returned to their homes. Their account was that Maria had offered them fresh chocolate chip cookies, and when they entered the house, she started to act strange, as if she was their mother. After that case, my parents didn't let me play in the street anymore. Hello Leo, my name is Nicholas. It was a Saturday night and I was about 14 years old. I went to play on the farm that my grandmother had. However, before I went to play, I heard her talking to my mother that the frogs that surrounded the farm were starting to disappear. I heard that and thought it was strange because there really were a lot of frogs in that place in the past. However, as time went on, more and more frogs were disappearing, but I didn't pay much attention to it. I went to play egg shooting with my uncle who had a shotgun. So we stayed there shooting at some cans far away. After a while, he said he needed to go home to help my grandmother with dinner. And meanwhile, I kept shooting at the targets until I heard a strange noise coming from the bush. And then I saw a snake, man, eating a frog. This snake was very sinister, dude, because it was all black and had bright red eyes. I, for a moment, thought there's the cause of the frog's disappearance. I'm going to end this right now. So I pointed the gun at the snake, but suddenly it looked at me, man, fixedly, and I was paralyzed. I couldn't even breathe properly, dude. Then it started to approach slowly, and I was there desperate, dude, not knowing what to do since I couldn't even move, man. Then, by a miracle, I managed to pull the trigger of the gun, Leo, and hit the snake right in the head. But it didn't suffer any damage and just left, dude. However, as it was moving away, I saw it transform into a tall man. Then he turned to me and gave a slight smile, and then he went into the bush. Dude, at that moment I fell from so much fear I felt. After a while, my uncle found me on the ground and asked me what had happened. I told him and he turned pale, expressionless. He grabbed my arm and started running while praying the Our Father. After that day, I never went to play on my grandmother's land at night, dude, because what if that creature appears again and I'm not lucky enough to have the gun?
Hello Leo, I'm Maria do Rosario, 31 years old from Aueiras, Paraiba.
A few years ago, I was working as a motorcycle taxi here in the city, but I was suffering from a cruel evil called depression, which was consuming me entirely. It was horrible. I had several bad thoughts, and it was even difficult to work. It was the eve of the Day of the Dead, and I went to the cemetery to bring some wreaths to be placed on some graves that were from this client's relatives. That day it was raining, and I put on my black cape, galoshes, had loose black hair, and basic makeup. I entered the cemetery and didn't see the gravedigger to deliver the things. So I went to put the wreaths on the tombstones of these relatives of my client myself. And in the end, I sat a little on the tomb. I started to think about my life and what to do with it. Then it started to rain heavily, and my makeup started to smudge even more, between rain and tears rolling down my face. Out of nowhere, I lift my head, and there is the gravedigger, standing about 10 meters away. He's looking at me scared. I get up and say, "I've been waiting for you for a long time, huh?" The gravedigger ran to the side exit that was closed. He jumped the gate, scared, and started to cry. He ended up tearing himself on the spikes at the top of the gate, fell to the other side, and disappeared. I didn't quite understand. I left through the other gate that was open. I looked, and nothing of him. He had evaporated. So I got on the bike and left. In that cemetery, I realized that life is very important, and we should thank every day we are alive. Later, I found out that the gravedigger had resigned because a tormented soul was waiting for him on a tombstone, and that he would never return to that place. Leo sends a hug to my children Emily, Esmeralda, Eric, and Paulo.